So the main thing with exercise 1 is to say is it valid or invalid, and then say why. Why is it valid or invalid? All right? Remember when I said the triangle of 3, there's always a big thing. Once you get 3 of them, you do 3 of them, you start to say, yes, you get the hang of it. You start to get the feel of it in the right brainy sort of way. So what have you got? Valid? Valid? Valid. Of course, by this stage of the evening, you go to the last page and it's got those magic things. There you go. So this is valid or invalid? That's what you're after? Sorry. Okay, so now that you've done a couple, it's useful to go back on the slides that we had a look at before and to say, see what the explanations were for them. All right, so the answers I've given you, this is one of those skills, you practice it, then you start to see, okay, in the exam, you've got to be able to work out whether it's valid and sound. I'll give you some examples of that next week, but why? So it's 3 marks, or 3 marks for each one. Valid, sound, and why. And of course, the explanation, because I feel it's right, it doesn't really get you many marks. And of course, there's, like a lot of forms, once you recognise the form, then the answer is the same all the time. You see, if you can understand the form, all you need to get is a set of examples which show you the form, and then you apply the form to the question. And then say, oh well, if it's invalid, the answer will be explained in the form. Make sense? The smartest people, of course, are able to refer to these slides. I'll show you. So there's a range of fallacies. Fallacies are a bit like the tricks of Brookfield, equivalent of, not the same as, they're equivalent of. So if there are reasons not to support the conclusion, so the conclusion A plus B might not follow. Now, the application of the general rule. The Socratic syllogism is used whenever we apply the general rule in the form of all A equals B. All A is B. Can you give me an example of everything that's A is B? That's a trick. Just change A for something and B for something. A is a man. All men are, what's that? Humans. Okay, that's simple. No smart aleck ones. So just all men are humans. That's simple, all right? So if you start to draw these and turn the idea into a diagram, then of course you always got your hand on it. You know, literally you can see it in front of you, instead of abstracting it into, because you're trying to compute it in the part of your brain. So the application of general, there's three types of this syllogism. Modus ponens, affirming the antecedent. Modus tollens is denying the consequent, and disjunctive syllogism. If the premises are accurate, the conclusion must be true. Let's have a look. Socrates is a man, all men are mortal. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is immortal. Right? It's nice, simple logic. All politicians are untrustworthy. Bill White is a politician, therefore Bill White is untrustworthy. That is a valid argument. Of course, some people might look at that and say the first statement is incorrect or false. So that would then bump it into, it is still valid. Logically it's valid, but it's unsound because one of the premises on which it's based doesn't make sense or is untrue. You see? So the general rule, all A's are B's, C is a B, C is an A is an invalid example. However, all politicians are trustworthy, all A's are B, Bill White's untrustworthy, therefore Bill White is a politician. All politicians are untrustworthy. Bill White is untrustworthy, therefore Bill White is a politician. Valid or invalid? Invalid. Invalid. Because he could be something else. And that's the answer that you would say. Why is it invalid? Because it's possible that Bill is a carpenter or something else. He's not a politician. There you go. Untrustworthy people, there you go. So there's all these untrustworthy people. So it's invalid because it's not necessary that all B's are A's. A modus ponens is the way that affirms by affirming. If the Democrats are able to register 20 million new voters, then they'll win the election. The Democrats were able to register more than 20 million voters, therefore the Democrats will win the election. So it affirms that if this premise is true, that was true, therefore the conclusion is correct. If I prepared thoroughly for the exam, I'll do well. If I prepared thoroughly for the final, I have prepared thoroughly for the final exam, I will do well. But it's invalid to say, if I prepared thoroughly for the final exam, then I'll do well. I did well in the final exam, therefore I prepared thoroughly for the exam. Of course, what that is doing, you can see that the logic is, the train of logic literally is jumped on a different track. The first one is saying, if I prepared thoroughly, then I will do well. And then you're saying, I did well, but there's no precedent to this. There is no precedent for it. Therefore I prepared. So you can't say that. The modus tollens is saying the way that denies by denying. It's like a negative form of logic. If Michael were a really good friend, he'd lend me his car. If A, then B. Michael refused to lend me his car. He's actually not B. Therefore, Michael is not really a good friend. So A is not B. An invalid form of that, if Michael were a really good friend, he'd lend me the car for the weekend. Michael agreed to lend me the car for the weekend, actually B. Therefore, Michael is a really good friend. What's the problem with that logic? What's the reason why it's not valid? See, this because I know that you can look at that and you say, you know why it's invalid. It's obvious. The hard thing is to transfer it from the obvious part of your brain to the language part of your brain. That's what you want. Why? This is a good question. We'll just finish off a couple of slides. I'll talk about the second assignment and then we'll be done. But this is useful. You see, because now you can see, you know, the brain of Jeff Lichtman thing. That's what's happening, is there's some part here that's happy, and there's some part here that can't quite get the language to it. Once you build that bridge, that's it. All of this stuff becomes simple. If Michael was a good friend, he'd lend me the car. Michael agreed to lend me his car. Michael could agree to lend me the car for all sorts of reasons, which has got nothing to do with friendship, you see? So to be critical thinking, you've got to be creative, because you've got to look at the other possibilities as to why this might have occurred. And of course, if you can articulate that, then when you're in a boardroom, you'll be able to say, hang on, the logic that you're using is flawed. You see? When people say, let's go to Bunnings because we made millions of dollars here, and all people want to buy stuff from a hardware shop. Australians buy hardware stuff. People in England want to buy stuff from a hardware. See? That is we've now found out, the $2 billion proposal. $2 billion. It's beautiful. If Michael were a really good friend, he would lend me his car. It doesn't necessarily imply that if he lends me the car, he is a good friend. So there's other reasons. Within the bounds of, it's a necessary. Now, this is the phrase that you want. A necessary but not a sufficient condition. That is, if you've got a screen in front of you, underline that, because that's what you want to be able to write. This is a necessary but not sufficient condition. That's the key thing. You see, you need to have all of these things to satisfy it. So if Michael refused to lend the car, it violates a necessary condition, and however, if he agrees, that doesn't necessarily satisfy that condition. You see, one of the problems, the reason why it's hard, is because explaining it is actually more complicated than seeing it. But if you can't explain it, then it's like you're playing tennis with your hands tied behind your back. You know that you can beat the argument, but you haven't got the racket. That's why this is useful. So, a disjunctive syllogism, the last one. Your stomach trouble is either caused by bad diet or nervous tension. You tell me you've taken special care of your diet, therefore your stomach trouble is caused by nervous tension. It's either this or that. You've told me that it's not this, so it's that. That's number 2. Either I left my wallet on the dresser or I've lost it. It's not in my drawer, therefore I must have lost it. Either I left my wallet on the dresser or I've lost it. The wallet is not in my dresser, therefore the wallet must be in the glove box of the car. Of course, what they're saying, there's I think it's Latin, non sequitur. It doesn't follow. That logic is literally carriages of a train is the best metaphor. That one precedes the next. They follow through. Whereas what the logic of that is, it said this, and by the way, we've got another carriage which is over there. You see? And so the non sequitur is a useful thing. So the soundness I've actually explained already. I'll find some exercises and put those up for next week. I don't want to do that. I want to spend, if you remind me, I'll come back and we'll cover some of those next week. I want to go through the second assignment. I know that you haven't got the assignment marks back, but I've already started to get some questions about that, so I thought I'll spend 10 minutes, maybe. 10 minutes about this, then we're done. Got 10 minutes off? So, of course, if you're going to do a speech, there's a form for a speech. Scientific research, this is it. You come up with a claim. You develop an argument type. You have evidence and explanation, so what? You present a counterclaim if you want to, and then you have a conclusion. The basic scientific research method which you're familiar with. So one of the things that you'll need to do in addition to or before you choose your topic is to look at the form of your argument. What form am I going? You see, if you create a form, then the analysis of your presentation is half done for you. You get it? because you'll be able to say, you know, this was a successful one. I said the form was chosen, the logic A plus B equals C, therefore this was logical and sound. So the structure of it is going to be the most important part of it. Your speech, once you've chosen a topic, it's worth developing a mind map or something like that. In my work, I'm going to put together a couple of ideas as to what are some tools that you could use to play around with it. But a mind map of all possible ideas. They say if you want to do something well, you have to immerse yourself in the information. The second one is a logic chart. Look at the flow of ideas. It needs to be like the syllogism, it needs to be logical. Right? Eating meat is bad for the environment, therefore don't eat meat. You know, an extended version of something like this. Work out what the argument is. I suggest that you visit your right brain and find an image which crystallises what the talk is about. The more graphic, don't use clip art, the more graphic the image, the more powerful or potent it will be. It's a useful thing to do, you see? Before you write anything, find an image which is, that's it, that's it, that's it. The image, of course the image will suggest your title, it also suggests the metaphor. Of course you don't write the title until you've finished it, because often the interesting thing about writing anything, you know, people who write books or songs will tell you, when they started writing they didn't know how it was going to end, and it started, you know, the end was a surprise. So the image you chose might be quite different from the image that you use within the talk. Speech is a special type of presentation. They've got a theatrical element. And beyond the words lies the rhetoric, the tricks and the devices that captivate and entrance the audience. And they make them more receptive. What is rhetoric? What is rhetoric? Quite a few people have used it in the assignment. What's that? It has an obvious answer. A rhetorical question is asking something that's got an obvious answer. Should we all study for the exam? I ask you. That's a rhetorical question. Of course, it's obvious. But what is rhetoric by itself? I don't know what the definition will come out, but it's the grand speaking. You know, it's sort of an exaggerated form. Rhetoric, instead of saying, look, we're going to try to solve cancer, rhetoric will, in 5 years, we will solve cancer. It's it's a sort of an exaggeration. Somebody, if you can find the definition of it and tell me before we finish. Effective speech. Effective speech. It's often hyped up a little bit. So instead of just saying, look, we've got a problem, we're going to solve it, rhetoric will be, this is a grand problem, it's the biggest problem facing the earth, and you see what I mean? You become, you turn up the boosters. That's how I would describe it. So Aristotle understood the prism. One of the modes of persuasion, furnished by the spoken word, there are three kinds. The first depends on the character of the speaker, the second on putting the audience to a certain frame of mind, and the third is the proof. And these are called, somebody tell me? These are called logos, ethos and pathos. Logos is logic. So there's got to be a logic, you know, there's a logical structure. Pathos is emotion. People, you know, selling things. So this is going to make you that better. You know, you are going to be a much better person than you were before. You remember how bad you used to be now. You see, it's that emotional appeal. Ethos is the quality of yourself. An ethic, that ethos is, what do I say there? Appeal to ethics means you convince you, I can tell you this because I am a religious person. I have read the great books. You see? You're trying to say, the reason why you should listen to me is because I have got these great qualities. I stand for something. That's in the Hillary, a lot of people did the Hillary Clinton speech as one of her things. And of course, the whole thing of who she was and what she's done, other people could say the same words, but they will be lesser in weight because of her standing. The same thing with Pankhurst or, Gandhi, of course. What Gandhi has said, somebody else could have read out. This man here, he's been all sorts of things. He might as well be Gandhi tonight. He could read them out and people would look at him and say, nah, don't believe it. You get it? Whereas if you're the man or the woman and you have been doing it, everybody... I mean, for example, in music, I play with musicians. People say, oh, no, we should play it this way. No, somebody comes in and they've been a performer, sold 1 million records. So what do you think, So he might say exactly the same thing, but because of who he is or she is, the weight of the words becomes much greater. That's what the ethos is. Of course, in a more general sense, the Martin Luther King speeches he had the ethos within himself, but of course he would say, this is a grand thing. I have a dream. It's not just about me, it's about all of us. Appealing to people's better nature. We are better than this, as a sense. Of course, that is the three. Metaphor is the simplest tricks. Here is the second easiest trick, because there's only 3 of them. They cover all bases. They're based on Aristotle. You've got plenty of references for them. It's a very useful thing. What else have we got? I've already shown you that. I don't know why I finished off the lecture there. Oh, yes, I do, because what you've actually got to do is you choose a topic. It's theoretically 10 minutes. Most people actually read it in 7 to 8 minutes. The key thing is that it's 1,000 words. 1,000 words equals how many words? 1,000, that's right. Yes, So a 10-minute speech and then a 1,000-word reflection, and you've got to use the CT tools. You have one text document with all this stuff in it. So like just one assignment, and the smartest people include the hyperlink to the text document, to the media file. So you might have, now it says you can do it as a sound recording, just onto your phone or something like that. You can do it as a PowerPoint file. The person who actually wrote this course, basically sort of PowerPoint was the number one thing. And it always seems a bit crazy, but of course you can just record something on PowerPoint, just as an audio. You can back it up with video, or you can have pictures with it. And the last one is Cultura. Has anyone used the video capture suite of Cultura? This is when, and I've got it rigged up on my computer, but I'll show you, because there's 2 speeches I'll show you. So next week, remind me, I'll present 2 speeches from previous semesters. And I'll show you Cultura. Cultura is what do they call it? A screen capture video, so that if, for example, can I do this? If I had Cultura operating here, I can have the slide, whatever is on this is recorded. So I hit record, and you can choose to have a picture of me in the corner, like using the camera, or you can have a picture of me only. So you can do it as a TV show, This is like you do that. Or you can just have the PowerPoint at the background. So in a sense, it depends on how theatrical, I actually, last year I was trying to get everyone to use Cultura because I think it's an interesting thing for you to practice, because it's such an image thing. But you can do whatever you like. In fact, some of the best speeches have just been audio. As long as you don't read it, you know the difference? This is my speech, It has to be theatre. You have to, I would say, you have to stand up to do this. One of the body language things, which is in every book about body language, is if you've got an important phone call, you stand up. You sound stronger. You sound more authoritative. The vocal coaches I've had, people who do singing, they say bend your knees is important. It sounds an odd, but in fact that's bend your knees because, it's like, yes, yes we can, or whatever it is. So standing up will be a much more powerful speech than sitting down. So that's what you've got to do. The choice of media, I've told you those. Culture, there's a thing on that, and that's it. Is there any questions about the assignment 2? So next week I've got to go through, I'll pick up some of those missing slides. There's a Collaborate session which we'll have, for those people listening on the recording, we'll do it Monday week, not this Monday. But next week, so just before you finish, next week what I'm going to do is in the last hour, like so 7 to 8, I'm going to get everybody to come out here. Okay? So we're going to talk about it here, standing up. All right, so prepare yourself. Don't come back for the last session if you don't want to do it. But it's useful for you to, the value of it is that it means that you actually start to talk to the topic. And so we get a bit of a feel for what's going on. And people who haven't got so many ideas will be able to learn from other people. All right? But I'll show you 2 examples from last semester. Very, very interesting. One of them was sort of amazing. But and then we'll see what happens. Any questions? No, time to go. No, it's in record. So it's recorded. What's that? All right. So next week, there's a problem. One of the things is because there's usually a focal subject in a much smaller room, and so part of it is me doing like a workshop. All right. So it's not practical. I'm just flagging it, Regate, that time, come out of What's that? 15 working days. Yeah, there's a sign up there. Don't worry, you realise I've done 50. I've got another 50 to do. Somebody else is doing the rest of it. Now, come on. So hopefully it'll be Monday week, definitely, maybe next Friday. Oh, what? It's a little synopsis, right? Actually, I was going to a house with my sister, and it was sort of out in the country a little bit, and I was walking with my wife, and my car was out in the middle of nowhere, and so we walked, because it was sort of a bit scary, so we were going in the car with me, so from here to there, right, and the lights flashed. What's in the car? There was nothing in the car. The nice guy, well, that was the. So I haven't seen anything weird, about from shooting stars. That was pretty weird. We were scared. Who's there? Who's there? Well, of course, this is one of the things, and the only thing I could think of is it had fog lamps, which I could attach. But it still didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense at all. Yeah. Yeah, well, I suppose they just left the lights on. What's that? No, I don't believe in them. No, I don't believe in UFOs. No, this is all, we're going to tell you that. No, I haven't seen any crazy stuff. UFOs are the, Right. No, if you look, of course, my father used to say he lived on a farm and they used to see the lights, like very strange lights. But it was a bit like the Northern Lights, So it's so of course, a lot of these things, they in the old days when people had symptoms of mental illness, they often said that they were possessed by the devil. So that's a good example of that. See, and of course now we know they've got brain damage, or they've got a, genetic illness as well, you see? So it's this lack of knowledge. So that was the best guess they could come up with. Unfortunately, it meant that, burning women and safety and that sort of thing, you see? So it was based on total stupid, but the most simplest thing. And so that's why I use the UFO. I have no, I've had some very psychic experiences, but the, UFO, that's, well, from the point of this subject, of course, we just say, if someone says, look, I think there's UFOs, well, it's okay, you can, I don't know that it's not true. You can't, that's right, it's indefeasible, they say. It's indefeasible. And so that's the problem with the religion. I'm reading a book at the moment which goes, sort of kicks the boots into religions and all sorts of things. People say, it's true because I believe it. You can't, there's no, why is of course, actually, what I'm reading at the moment says, say Christians believe that their God is true. And it says the problem is, in the world, what religion you are is based virtually 90% on geography. So if you're born in America, 80% Christian, and if you're in India, it's Hindu or whatever. And so, if these people believe that their God is correct because they believe it, so what happens to these guys? And these guys, you know what I mean? So it's a ridiculous argument. But it doesn't stop people saying, this is true, It's sort of... That's right. It is, in fact, it's like a black swan. It says, the only religion is my religion. I cannot imagine that any other religion is true. And someone comes up with a Hindu religion and says, kill them all, get rid of those people. And of course, if you look at the history of religions, which these books do, they say that they're all mashups and they've evolved. They're all evolved different things. And the biggest problem of in the 21st century, when we've got mobile phones and computers and all this, people still believe it. For the what? What the religions? All right. So you mean the argument that religion is valuable because of a lot? Yeah. Well, I mean. Yeah. Look, I think it's very interesting because I was brought up Catholic, and then a very friend of mine who for a long time got me support. He's a very strong believer in Catholic. So I can see the value of it, but that doesn't mean it's true. Because it's a bit like that argument at the end. If there were, like, I tell you. I mean, of course, there's truth in some very bad stuff, and you take a pick in a sense, depending on whether you want to barrack it or not barrack it. But it is, sometimes I've got people, you're too hard on the Christians or the Jews or something like this. So I'm trying to be, mate, I'm just talking about logic in this subject here. But it's raises some interesting questions. Good on you. Oh, you want to have a look at this? Yeah. See you later. This computer. I need to buy another computer, but it's just such a pain in the neck to change computer.
Yeah. You're used to this, and
well, it's just I've got to change, programs, and there's some programs which I haven't got, and it's gone. Don't tell me.
Like most of the marketing courses, they are promoting the dual type form. That's why.
Which dual? The
type form.
Type form.
Yeah, so the survey. So I was confused if SurveyMonkey or. Yeah, this which is more like when I saw the interface of type tool,
Yeah.
it was kind of easy to
Right.
get used to it. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. That's
Yeah.
the Kaltura. But I'll just check to see that I'm on. I'll go to the toilet and I'll come back.
Yeah.
Come on. Hey, come on.
When I was not getting
I've got this thing, it should be working. Here we go. Oh, I'll just show this guy. Have you got a question, have you? Yep. Yep.
Like something that I can relate with, right? Or there is something that is local in the
Anything in the whole universe. Ideally, of course, something that you know about. What's that?
something relatable to that.
Something you know about, yeah. So, look, people, of course, I mean, basically, something you know about, something you care about, something that's important. That's the three questions, I'd say. Some people, depending on the topic, they will need references, you know, like they're going to research data. Other people, it's based on your experience, so you don't need references in your speech. And, yeah, you know, so, but anything. So have a think about it, and then next week, tell me, so we'll talk about it, you see? Because it's useful. I can help people get on a better topic, like to refine a topic, so you're going to be more successful. Okay? So this is it. I'll show you the. So this is the note. I won't, you know. So it's confidential, but I won't show you that. This is draft one, and the survey. So this is what it looks like. That's it. So question bank, builder, I just put my, that's my badge on it. And then you can insert question, like so that's the pages, comments, and so how many, if you can include, oh there you go. So you can builder, change the themes, add an extra question, like check boxes, multiple choice, drop down menus, all that sort of thing. Yeah. And if you can do this for free if you're only going to use.
And is there percentage?
Percentage, yeah. So in the results, it gives you percentage. Let's go back to one.
So we like rate to 10, rate the
1 to 7 or something. Yeah. So, for every question, I mean, there's only 3, so this is a draft, I think, but it spits out graph, percentages, tables, everything. Yeah. There you go. So there's only 2 people did it. So it gives you the graph, we strive to constant, do that, and then you get the percentages, 50%, 50%, whatever. And then you can export the answers either as the summary data, which is that, or the question chart.
How's the effectiveness of using this?
Very good, yeah, I like it, yeah. It's free if you only use 50, I think. Yeah. Because I do 100 and something, it costs me $150 a year.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so it costs, but so I just include that as part of the cost for the client. But yeah, so it's good. Survey Monkey. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
No worries. See you.
Bye.
That sounds good. Mm. Mm.
Story is that in his retrial today, Bill Cosby was found guilty of sexual assault. Yeah. You know, in the Me Too era, it is gratifying to see a sexual predator, however powerful or popular, finally brought to justice. But can't forget, there are still plenty still at large. Speaking of which, Donald Trump called into Fox and Friends today. Got anybody see it? Anybody see this? Are you okay? Because the interview started strong, but then the president started talking.
Good morning, and I picked a very, very special day because it's Melania's birthday. So I said, let's do it on Melania's birthday.
He also tried that line on Melania, no go. Then, it's quality family joke. Then the Fox and Friends asked the obvious follow-up, do you want to tell us what you got her?
Well, I better not get into that because I may get in trouble. Maybe I didn't get her so much. I'll tell you what she has done. I got her a beautiful card.
You're a millionaire. You got your wife a card? Do you know what she puts up with? I think she's earned a shopping spree. I'm going to say around $130,000 worth. We have acquired a copy of the card he gave her. Merry birthday. There's a GameStop gift card. There you go. Have one laying around. Then the president and the Fox and Friends, they got down to business and talked about business.
Michael is in business. He's really a businessman, a fairly big business as I understand it. I don't know his business. Michael is a businessman. He's got a business. Probably the big thing is his business, and they're looking at something having to do with his business. I have nothing to do with this business.
Yes, Michael is in business. He is in the business of business as a businessman. His business is being in business, and it's none of my business. So, who am I to be all up in his business? And when it comes to Russia, he never colluded.
So the special counsel, and by the way, and intelligence committee and everybody else has found no collusion. There's no collusion with me and the Russians. Nobody's been tougher to Russia than I am. You can ask President Putin about that.
Great argument. I didn't rob that bank. Just ask my getaway driver. But Trump does know one thing. He doesn't know anything.
I'm not involved, and
nice man in the mirror told me I never colluded, and that I am a very strong and good boy. And then he got kind of handsy. Of course, Trump left the door open to firing Robert Mueller.
And you look at the corruption at the top of the FBI, it's a disgrace. And our Justice Department, which I try and stay away from, but at some point I won't.
Oh, that's reassuring. This is your captain speaking. I have an extremely stressful job and a bottle of Jack Daniels, which I will try to stay away from, but at some point, I won't. Complaining about NBC and CNN, but explained that he doesn't watch the thing he spends every waking moment complaining about.
I don't have time for two reasons. There's too much, and I don't have time.
That's barely one reason. Honey, I didn't take the trash out for two reasons. It's gross, and I didn't take the trash out. And when asked to give himself a letter grade, Trump showed his trademark humility.
I would give myself an A+. Nobody has done what I've been able to do, and I did it despite the fact that I have a phony cloud over my head that doesn't exist.
Sir, that's not a phony cloud. That's your hair. But this interview was insane. It was rambling. It was so loud. It sounded like he was shouting the whole time. I just had the image of an unbathed Donald Trump shambling around in his bathroom. Neither Fox nor Friend could get into word edgewise.
I would rather have the popular vote because it's, to me, it's much easier to win.
It's a totally different set of goals as opposed to electoral college.
But we have an electoral college.
Right.
I got 306 and she got, 223. So remember, there was no way to break 270. I heard that.
Comey is a liar, Mueller is corrupt, Crooked Hillary deletes emails, and I'll take a large personal pan, meat lovers pizza, and an order of garlic knots with crazy sauce. Wait, who am I talking to? I forgot. Hello? Is this? And the whole time this is going on, curvy couchlings just sat there stunned. They're just his mouth slacked, classy-eyed, wondering what to do. And we at The Late Show have obtained exclusive recordings of the Fox and Friends inner monologues while they listen to Donald Trump unravel.
It's an absolute disgrace. And by the way, the only collusion is the collusion with the Democrats and the Russians. You take a look at what's going on there.
Wow. This guy's off the rails. This is not good for democracy.
Behold the scourge we have unleashed. We are all complicit in the evil we have wrought. After 30 minutes, how long? 30 minutes of this? After 30 minutes, the host gently reminded the president that he has a job.
We talk to you all day, but it looks like you have a million things to do.
We'd love to talk. But I know you're busy, man. He got the president off the phone like an annoying relative. Well, okay. Yeah, well, listen, I'm gonna let you go. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, we got a dinner. They're calling me. Dinner's getting cold. Yeah, talk soon. Happy Thanksgiving, Grandpa. No, they're not all thieves. Remember, Nana found her ring. Okay, all right. Bye.